In the aftermath of Donald Trump's second federal indictment, this time for attempting to overturn the 2020 election, Mike Pence, Donald Trump's former vice president and aspirant rival for the 2024 Republican nomination, is finally coming out swinging, so to speak, against Trump. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell, and maybe check out my Patreon. I'd appreciate the support. So, Mike Pence, what is there to say? He's a quiet man. He used to be a conservative radio host. He was the governor of Indiana. He was a former believer in the cruel and debunked practice of conversion therapy against homosexuals. He looks like he would be a villain in like a season of Handmaid's Tale, which is probably actually he would see that as an honor. Handmaid's Tale, I imagine, is the exact utopia that he wants in his religious fundamentalism. And he's Donald Trump's vice president. That's basically all there is about this man. He's polling painfully low in the Republican primary. I think he and Chris Christie are neck and neck, basically, because Mike Pence is seen as a traitor by the MAGA base. They see him as somebody who betrayed their God King, their God Emperor, their high priest, Donald Trump. And Mike Pence, like many others, was trying to walk this fine line between wanting to position himself as a viable replacement to Trump while also trying to avoid Trump's ire. Good luck with that. But now that Trump has been indicted for the second time, this time trying to steal the election from Joe Biden, for which Mike Pence was at the center. Mike Pence was one of the biggest witnesses in Jack Smith's case against Donald Trump. He was the vice president at the time. He was the center of Donald Trump's pressure campaign to basically steal the election from Biden. So Mike Pence plays a pretty pivotal role in this. Well, he's finally starting to criticize Trump very harshly. So I want to play some clips here, and we will unpack it.
And irrespective of the indictment, I want the American people to know that I had no right to overturn the election. And then on that day, President Trump asked me to put him over the Constitution, but I chose the Constitution.
That's a beautiful, beautiful sentiment. And listen, I've talked about this before. I will give Mike Pence the bare minimum credit here that he didn't try to overthrow the republic. But again, to me, that's the political equivalent of walking down the street and not kicking a puppy or punching a baby, right? You're not a hero for doing that. And as a matter of fact, as we've discussed before, if you look at various reporting on the matter, Mike Pence struggled with that decision. He was sorely tempted to try to help Trump. He looked for justifications. He, reached out to people like Ted Cruz and Mike Lee, Republican senators, and was desperate to find some sort of justification to do Trump's bidding. So not exactly a pillar of strength, but whatever. Here he is on Fox News. Again, this is in the aftermath of Trump's indictment, and this is what he has to say about the scheme for fake electors and the conspiracy to try to steal the 2020 election from Joe Biden.
I was clear on that throughout. I was clear with President Trump throughout, all the way up to the morning of January 6th. But let's be clear on this point. It wasn't just that they asked for a pause. The president specifically asked me, and his gaggle of crackpot lawyers asked me to literally reject votes, which would have resulted in the issue being turned over to the House of Representatives, and literally chaos would have ensued. So, Martha, I just people can read the indictment, and frankly, I've said before, I had hoped it had not come to this point. I don't know if the government can meet the standard, the burden of proof beyond reasonable doubt for criminal charges. But the American people deserve to know that President Trump and his advisors didn't just ask me to pause. They asked me to reject votes, return votes, essentially to overturn the election and to keep faith with the oath that I made to the American people and to Almighty God. I rejected that out of hand, and I did my duty there.
So, again, that's why the intro is probably going to block this, but I was using air quotes at the beginning of this video when I said that he came out of the gate swinging. And the reason is this is the closest to an outright condemnation that Mike Pence has ever issued with respect to Donald Trump. It's certainly mild-mannered and tame compared to what Chris Christie is correctly saying about Donald Trump. And so, even then, you see, well, I told the guys, I told you all, I didn't want him to be indicted. And I don't know if the government can make its case. So, he's trying to, throw what I would consider, this desperate Hail Mary. Guys, please don't hate me. I didn't want this. While also trying to condemn Trump in the strongest possible terms. And it's because he has a foot in both worlds. He has no credibility, really, with either camp. But, yeah, I do think it's important, if you read the 45-page unsealed indictment, it's important to understand that a pause would have been bad enough. But Mike Pence clarified, Trump wasn't just asking for a pause. Trump asked his vice president to unilaterally throw out valid ballots to swing the election in his favor. And again, this is what cracks me up about so many conservatives. In what universe would the founding fathers have ever thought that the vice president would be empowered to do that? They just fought a war to throw off the yoke of an unelected monarch, a single man with, at least on paper, absolute power. You think they would want to give that to the vice president? Yeah, screw elections, screw the popular vote, screw the electoral college. Really, it's in the hands of the vice president. It's insane. And of course, Republicans never follow through with that logic when it's a Democratic vice president. Joe Biden was vice president in 2016 and 2017 when Donald Trump's votes were certified. Did he have the right to just throw out votes that he didn't like favoring Trump at the time? Should he have done that? No, of course not, right? Apparently to Republicans, that's a right only reserved for Republicans. They're losers and idiots, and they should be mocked. And hopefully they will suffer legal consequences, at least John Eastman, who is, I think, one of the unnamed co-conspirators in the Trump indictment. But the other thing I want to bring your attention to is this. So this is Mike Pence on Twitter, and he gives a tweet thread, and he repeats what he said in the first clip. Anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. It's a beautiful sentiment. But look at his reaction. Oh my God. MAGA hates his guts. MAGA does not like him. Judas, coward. One guy said, Benny Johnson, who is a popular commentator, he said, I'm so glad Tucker Carlson destroyed your career. It's pathetic. They talk about cancel culture. They talk about being the party of free speech and free ideas. They're not. They're a cult. They're a fascistic cult of personality. And Mike Pence is going to suffer their wrath politically. He's going to get no support. And he has no one to blame but himself. He, for 4 years, actively aided and abetted Donald Trump's worst impulses and then tried to be a brake check at the last moment. Sorry, buddy. That's insufficient. As the meme says, member of the leopard face-eating party says, I never imagined the leopard would eat my face. That's Mike Pence.